Welcome to Keyla's podcast 1.0, where your hosts Simone and Michael talk about Keyla's books, and not only. In each episode, we'll dive into the realm of storytelling, exploring the stories that introduces us to fantastic places and unforgettable characters.
Okay, so we are diving deep into some science fiction today with this look at Keyla Damaer's world.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, you sent us some excerpts from the original The Halden Army story.
Right.
And it's really cool to see this before it became part of her larger Sehnsucht series. So today we're going to be talking about military culture and societal pressures and the choices that one character makes in the face of this fictional regime, the Halden. This world building already has me hooked.
Oh, yeah.
So where do we even begin?
Well, it's so interesting how Damaer doesn't ease us into this world at all.
Yeah.
Like, we're just dropped right into the action alongside Draken.
Yeah.
He's our protagonist in this excerpt. And we're immediately immersed in this really intense military academy.
Right from the get-go.
Yeah. And we discover everything about the Halden regime through his eyes. And it's immediately clear that conformity is not just incurred. It's basically hardwired into these cadets.
Yeah, no kidding. Like that daily oath that they recite.
I know, right?
Talk about strict.
It is.
To guard strictly all military and Halden secrets, to obey without question all Army regulations and orders of my superiors.
Oh.
Even just hearing those words, you get a chill, right?
Absolutely. It's like this carefully crafted tool of indoctrination.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And notice the emphasis on obedience above all else.
Yeah.
That's not just a pledge or anything. It's a key indicator of the societal control that the Halden exerts over everyone.
Yeah.
Like, they're shaping mindsets from the moment these recruits wake up.
Yeah, totally. And what's really interesting is how this control that you're talking about, it butts heads with those natural impulses of, well, being young.
Right.
Especially when it comes to, like, the mating rituals.
Oh, yeah.
That Damaer describes. They're intense, to say the least.
Yeah, and that's where I think we really start to see Damaer subtly weave in this theme of control versus freedom.
Yeah.
Which I suspect is going to become even more significant as we go on.
Totally.
You know, Draken's internal conflict, especially his attraction to Zamal. Right before these crucial exams.
Yeah.
It just highlights how deeply the Halden try to regulate even the most basic human instincts.
Yeah, it's like they want to create these perfect soldier drones, devoid of all distractions or desires.
Without a doubt.
Which, speaking of, did you catch that detail about food scarcity? Yes.
Even in this elite military academy, food is a constant, source of anxiety or a problem.
It's ever present, and it's so subtle.
Yeah.
But it's so telling.
Yeah.
You know, if food is scarce even here in this academy, what does that say about the Halden society as a whole?
Right.
Like, this suggests a much deeper anxiety of vulnerability that the Halden regime could be exploiting to tighten their grip even more on their people.
Totally. It's giving me serious Big Brother vibes.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Control the food, control the people.
Classic.
And then on top of all that, there's Draken's recurring nightmare.
Right.
Inescapable flames, always the same.
Every time.
It's going to be more than just a bad dream, don't you think?
I think so, for sure.
Like, where's that coming from?
Yeah, this is definitely Damaer masterfully humanizing Draken, I think. Like, he's this strong, capable cadet.
Yeah.
But this nightmare reveals this crack in his armor.
Yeah.
This vulnerability that I think just makes his later choices even more impactful.
Yeah.
This deep-seated fear of fire.
Which, where does that come from?
Right.
Is it a personal trauma?
Right.
Or is it something more insidious that the Halden have ingrained in him?
It's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And either way, it adds this whole other layer to his character and the world that he's living in.
For sure.
Yeah.
So it makes you wonder.
And that vulnerability becomes even more significant as we head into the final exam.
Right.
Which is far from your standard test of strength and skill.
Yeah.
Instead, we're introduced to the Black Squad.
Okay, the Black Squad.
Yeah.
Even the name sends shivers down my spine.
Who are these guys and what's their role in this whole twisted exam?
Yeah, they're almost mythical within the Halden regime.
Okay.
Like, Damaer describes them as this shadowy group capable of unearthing your deepest secrets.
Yeah.
Like those hidden vulnerabilities you might not even admit to yourself.
Right.
And they're the ones running the final exam.
Oh my gosh.
It speaks volumes about what the Halden prioritize in their officers.
So it's not just about physical prowess. It's about mental resilience.
Yeah.
The ability to withstand anything, even psychological torture.
Exactly. And the methods they use, sensory deprivation, physical stress, targeted manipulation.
Yeah.
It's all designed to break the cadets down to their core.
It's brutal, but I can't help but think back to that line from the instructor.
Oh, yeah.
I'm interested in your reactions because the result of this test will make you a superb leader or a dead recruit.
Wow.
Like, the Halden believe they're forging leaders in these fires.
Right.
Even if those fires are fueled by cruelty.
Yeah, it's a chilling philosophy.
It is.
Like they're stripping away individuality, seeking absolute obedience, even if it means sacrificing compassion and empathy along the way.
Totally.
And the interrogation scene itself.
Oh, man.
Damaer doesn't shy away from the harsh realities.
Yeah.
But it's never gratuitous.
No.
You experience it all through Draken's senses.
Right.
The disorientation, the isolation, the gnawing fear.
You really feel for her.
You find yourself holding your breath, wondering if he'll crack.
Totally. And this is where Damaer masterfully forces the listener,
Yeah.
alongside Draken, to confront these really difficult questions.
Oh,
Like, what are the limits of human resilience? At what point does resistance become futile?
yeah.
Can you maintain your morality under this kind of pressure?
Right.
And as we know, these questions have devastating consequences for Draken.
They do.
He fails the test.
He does.
Succumbing to his fear of fire.
And the consequences are immediate and brutal.
Yeah.
He's deemed unworthy,
Oh, yeah.
discarded by the very system he dedicated his life to.
Yeah, he gave everything.
And this is where I think the story transcends a simple military academy drama
Yeah.
and becomes something much more profound.
Because it's not just about Draken's individual failure, is it?
No, not at all. His downfall serves as this stark microcosm of the Halden's pervasive control.
I see that.
You know, they create this system where fear and obedience are paramount.
Yeah.
Where any deviation is met with swift and brutal punishment.
Yeah.
Then they turn around and punish those who break under the very pressures they themselves have engineered.
So who's really failing here?
It makes you wonder, right?
Is it Draken for succumbing to this deeply ingrained fear, or is it the Halden
Right.
for creating the society that demands this absolute obedience at the expense of basic human vulnerability?
That's the question.
And the fallout isn't just personal for Draken either.
No, it's not.
It impacts his family,
Of course.
their social standing,
Yeah,
their entire future.
right. It highlights how deeply the Halden's control permeates every aspect of their citizens' lives.
Yeah.
Even love and marriage become tools to maintain order.
Totally. Like, look at how Draken's planned marriage to Rodema is presented in the story. There's just this chilling lack of agency there.
Right.
A sense that this is another box to tick on the Halden's checklist.
Yes.
Not a genuine expression of love or desire.
It's just another regulation.
It's like they're trying to control the very fabric of human connection.
Exactly. And to further underscore this theme of control versus freedom,
Right.
we see Zamal, who embodies the opposite path.
Oh, yeah.
She embraces the system, excels within its brutal parameters, and emerges triumphantly in her new uniform.
Okay, so speaking of the uniform, let's be honest.
Yeah.
You can tell from Damaer's description that this is not just a uniform.
Oh, it's so much more.
It's a symbol of power and status within the Halden regime.
Absolutely. It represents the seductive allure of conformity.
Oh, yeah.
The promise of influence and stability for those who willingly surrender their individuality to the Halden's will.
Right, so you see these two stark paths laid bare in the story.
Totally.
Conform and potentially rise to power like Zamal.
Right?
Or resist, fail, and face the brutal consequences like Draken.
Exactly.
And what makes this even more fascinating is that we're looking at the original version of this story.
I know, right?
It's so cool.
The version before any potential edits or, dare I say, censorship.
Exactly.
And that adds a whole other layer to our deep dive.
Oh, for sure.
Because the published version, as you mentioned, has a different ending.
Right.
Which begs the question, why the change?
Yeah.
What did this original ending convey that someone somewhere decided needed to be altered?
Yeah, it makes you wonder if Damaer intended something really bleak with this original ending.
Like a really stark commentary on the price of defiance in a society like the Halden.
Yeah.
Or maybe the marketing experts she mentioned in her notes.
Yeah.
They felt like it was just too much, too hopeless.
Yeah.
Maybe they wanted her to change it, to have like a glimmer of optimism.
Right.
A hint that even within a system as rigid as the Halden, there's still room for individual agency.
So it's like that age-old debate.
Totally.
Art reflecting reality versus art offering escape.
Exactly.
And even in science fiction, those questions resonate.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think it makes you appreciate this original version even more.
Totally.
This raw, unfiltered glimpse into Damaer's creative process.
Yeah.
Her initial vision for this story.
It's like a behind-the-scenes look.
Yes, exactly.
That's something that's like a work in progress almost.
Exactly. And it adds this whole other layer of intrigue to the Sehnsucht series as a whole, don't you think?
100%. Like, we know from this excerpt that this story isn't over.
Right.
It's setting the stage for these larger themes of rebellion, the questioning of authority.
Yeah.
It makes you think, if this is just the beginning, what other acts of defiance might we see?
Totally. Like, is Draken branded a failure, cast out?
Right.
Will that be the catalyst for something much bigger?
Right.
Will he passively accept this fate, or will this dismissal ignite a spark of rebellion within him?
And what about the other characters?
Right.
Like Zamal now climbing the ranks in that very loaded uniform.
Yes.
Will she remain blindly devoted to the Halden, or will she start to question the very system that's rewarded her obedience?
And let's not forget Rotima. The excerpt mentions her story continues in the Sehnsucht series.
Right.
And that's really intriguing to me.
Yeah.
Because she's caught between these two opposing forces now.
Totally.
You've got Draken the outcast and Zamal the rising star.
Talk about high stakes.
Right.
You've got to wonder, in a society that seems to prioritize control above all else, what choices will Rotima make?
Right.
Whose path will she follow? Or will she forge her own way, defying the expectations of the Halden entirely?
It's a question that lingers long after you finish reading this excerpt.
It really does.
Damaer leaves us with this sense of unease, of unresolved tension.
Yeah.
It's really a testament to her skill as a writer.
For sure.
How she manages to pack so much depth and intrigue into just this small glimpse of a much larger world.
This deep dive has definitely given us a lot to chew on.
It really has.
You've learned about the Halden, their iron-fisted, control, their obsession with obedience.
Yeah.
All through Draken's harrowing experience. But this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Totally.
Keyla Damaer has planted these seeds of rebellion, these questions about individual agency versus societal pressure that are bound to bloom in the larger Sehnsucht series.
I can't wait to see where it goes.
So what are you waiting for? It's time to dive into those books and discover the answers for yourself.
Thank you for joining us on another episode of Keyla Podcast 1.0. We hope you enjoyed yourself. If you're as passionate about books as we are, don't forget to subscribe to our channels and leave a review. For more information, visit KeylaDamaer.com.